Donald Trump waving the white flag of surrender to Iran. I'm sure you're seeing AI viral videos like this one circulating online. Donald Trump said he was not going to end this catastrophic war in Iran unless there was unconditional surrender. Well, Donald Trump just got unconditional surrendered. He did an unconditional surrender to Iran, giving Iran everything they wanted. Donald Trump announced that there was a deal that was very close to being formed on Saturday. And now that we're seeing what this deal looks like, it is a total surrender by the weak and pathetic Donald Trump and his weak and pathetic regime. It shows what a good deal former President Obama's JCPOA was, and for all the MAGAs and Republicans who had always been attacking Obama's deal with Iran, that non-nuclear deal, Trump just did a deal that is 100 times, maybe 1,000 times worse. I want to dig into what went down. You know, this weekend started with Donald Trump saying, "I am not going to attend my son Don Jr.'s wedding. I like my son," he said. "I've known him for a long time, but I don't think I need to be there." Also, Donald Trump saying that he was not going to go to Bedminster this weekend to play golf. He stayed in the White House, which was unusual. And then he announced earlier yesterday that there was a deal in principle that was reached with Iran. Now, you may be saying, didn't he announce this like 60 days ago or something? Yeah, but Donald Trump is a total con artist. But this time, they are super serious about it. And so Donald Trump made a social media post that then lots of Donald Trump's allies in the Republican Party said, wow, this is terrible. Donald Trump's former Secretary of State Pompeo attacked it. Ted Cruz attacked it. So many people on the right wing were attacking it. And Donald Trump, of course, has his MAGA troll army that was trying to push back on that. Steve Chung, Donald Trump's communication director, was making post after post last night as well. It's like, Donald Trump's still working. It's 8 p.m. Donald Trump's still working. It's 9:30 p.m. He's a one of one. Look how hard he's working. And then there was that bizarre shooting that took place at the White House while Donald Trump was getting absolutely demolished on social media and elsewhere about how bad his deal was. Then there was this shooting, and there was apparently 30 shots fired at the White House. And then people were like, what the heck's going on there? And then when people went back to focusing on, okay, what is going on? They said, wow, this is the worst deal ever. Also, I guess for Donald Trump to soothe himself, he posted, thank you, President Erdogan, the president of Turkey. Trump is the leader the world has been awaiting for centuries. He doesn't just talk about strength. He embodies it. Donald Trump attributed that quote to President Erdogan of Turkey, and then Donald Trump deleted it because Erdogan's foreign minister told the United States, take that down. Erdogan never said those words. Stop making things up. And then Donald Trump backed down once again. The caveman, the taco, always chickening out, always caving. He was never a negotiator to begin with. Always a pathetic loser his entire life who bankrupted things. Now, here's what Donald Trump posted yesterday. I am in the Oval Office at the White House. We had a very good call with, and then he lists all of these leaders in the Middle East, notably doesn't talk about consulting Congress. How about the House? How about the Senate? How about war powers authorization? No, he just lists all of these Middle East leaders and princes and Middle East royalty. And then Donald Trump says, we talked about this peace deal, this memorandum of understanding pertaining to peace. An agreement has largely been negotiated subject to finalization between the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran and the various other countries as listed. Separately, I had a call with Netanyahu of Israel, which likewise went very well. You know, it didn't go very well. And you know, Donald Trump lies about everything. Final aspects and details of the deal are currently being discussed and will be announced shortly. In addition to many other elements of the agreement, the Strait of Hormuz will be opened. Thank you for your attention to this matter. That was Donald Trump's post. Let me show you the post of Abraham Al-Fikar. He is the Iran official military spokesperson who shared this AI-generated image of Donald Trump bowing before Supreme Leader Khomeini, Monjaba, and kissing his feet right there, or Ayatollah Khomeini, and kissing his feet. So what is the actual deal as we know it as of now? Here's the Iranian deal so far. $25 billion in frozen Iranian assets will be released. The U.S. blockade of Iran's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, that will end. Iran will allow passage through the Strait of Hormuz, but remain in control of the strait. It will all be subject to its discretion. Iran's nuclear program will not in any way be part of this agreement at all. Basically, it's all of Iran's demands. Each one of them Donald Trump caved to. And the issue over nuclear material, Iran says, well, let's deal with that 30 days from now or 60 days from now. But first, we want that $25 billion. We want our security guarantees. Then we'll open up the Strait of Hormuz. You'll end the blockade. And then we'll maybe do a negotiation 30 to 60 days later on nuclear material. But we're not going to even make any promises there. And Donald Trump was like, bet, let's do it right now. Now, Iran rejects Donald Trump or anybody in the Trump regime's claim that the Hormuz Strait will be opened, like totally opened and not under Iran's control. Iran made it very clear it will remain under Iranian management, with Iran retaining exclusive permanent authority over the Strait of Hormuz. The timing, the method, the permits. Iran also confirms that the nuclear file had not been discussed at all, and that will not be subject of this agreement. Maybe 30 to 60 days later, it will be discussed. We learned about this from Iran's Fars news agency. And one of the things that they said that I think was very, very notable as well is the following. They said, it should be noted, this is what Iran media is saying, and no one in the Trump regime is contradicting this because it's 100% true. It should be noted that American officials have acknowledged in multiple messages to Iran that Trump's tweets are primarily for promotional purposes and media consumption within the United States. And they have recommended that no attention be paid to these statements. In other words, Donald Trump's negotiators, when they're speaking with the Iranian negotiators, say, look, here's the deal. Trump's caving to you. He's going to go on social media and make up a bunch of lies. He's got to work with like Barack Ravid and state regime media CBS and state regime media Fox and other American corporate media. Like, let him lie. He's going to do his lie. But we know at the end of the day, here are the terms. America's surrendering. And that's what's going to be the end of the deal. We're going to give you $25 billion. Remember when they would like mock former President Obama and be like, the JCPOA, it gave them $1 billion in cash. Well, you're giving them $25 billion right now. One of the things that Iran is also saying, they told Jeremy Scahill and others, is that Israel is currently undertaking its final and extensive efforts, applying considerable pressure to disrupt the formation of this agreement. Now you have Mike Pompeo, Donald Trump's former Secretary of State, posted the following. The deal being floated with Iran seems straight out of the Wendy Sherman, Robert Malley, Ben Rhodes playbook. Pay the IRGC to build a weapon of mass destruction program and terrorize the world. Not remotely America first. It's straightforward. Open the damn strait. Deny Iran access to money. Take out enough Iranian capability so it cannot threaten our allies in the region. Overdue. Let's go. To which Stephen Chung, Donald Trump's communications director, responded to Pompeo. Mike Pompeo has no idea what the fuck he's talking about. He should shut his stupid mouth and leave the real work to the professionals. He's not ready to anything that's happening. So how would he know? I don't know, maybe because Pakistan is a mediator. All of the other Arab nations were on calls with Donald Trump and they know what the deal is. And that's where this information is coming from. I don't know, maybe that. By the way, This is Trump's communication director, this weird guy, Stephen Chung. This is how he talks. I mean, these people are such profane frickin' losers, all of them. Ted Cruz, you don't get much more MAGA Republican right now than Ted Cruz, who Donald Trump called his wife ugly and said his dad killed JFK. Here's what Ted Cruz posted. I'm deeply concerned about what we are hearing about an Iran deal being pushed by some voices in the administration. Trump's decision to strike Iran was the most consequential decision of essential term. If the result of all of that is to be an Iranian regime still run by the Islamicists, who chant death to America, now receiving billions of dollars, being able to enrich uranium and develop nuclear weapons and having effective control over the Strait of Hormuz, then the outcome would be a disastrous mistake. The details are still coming out, and I pray the early reports are wrong. Trump believes in peace through strength. He should hold the line, defend America. Meanwhile, you have MAGA Mike Johnson said the following. Trump is the only one who could have gotten Iran, the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, to the negotiating table. We are greatly encouraged to learn a peace deal in Iran is underway and look forward to learning more about the specifics. Under Donald Trump's leadership, our nation is stronger, more respected on the global stage, and safer than ever before. Yeah, how about no to all of those things? You want to talk about the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, that 2015 multilateral agreement that was led by former President Obama. It included United States, UK, France, Germany, Russia, and China, plus the EU. It created verifiable limits on Iran's nuclear program. It capped uranium enrichment at 3.67%, low enriched, suitable for power plants, far below the 90% weapons grade. It reduced the stockpiles. It reduced centrifuges. It converted the Fordo facility into a research site. It gave unprecedented IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, access, including continuous monitoring over facilities and supply chain. It had core limit reduction. I mean, it actually did the hard work. Donald Trump pulled out of that. Donald Trump and Netanyahu then launched this war. And then Donald Trump gives him the Strait of Hormuz, gives him $25 billion and utterly surrenders. You don't get much more pathetic than what Donald Trump just did. And let me be very clear. I am glad that there's a possibility of no more war. You know, Netanyahu is going to push for it. And where I stood, of course, is I never wanted to see this unlawful, catastrophic war in the first place. You know, I call Donald Trump and Netanyahu war criminals. I call them out for their genocide. I call them out for what they did in Manab, the slaughter of all those little girls, and countless other innocent lives who they killed in Iran and elsewhere. I think we need to reflect, though, on Donald Trump acting all tough and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And then he surrenders. He surrenders when the pressure is put on him. I'm glad ultimately that this is the outcome, but we should never have been in this unlawful and catastrophic war from the outset, period, full stop. And now Trump has made us weaker. He's demonstrated that there is no United States security umbrella that exists. How do you think this is going to be viewed, not just in the Middle East? How do you think it's going to be viewed in Asia and elsewhere? It shows that America under Donald Trump is a paper tiger. The U.S. ran out of all its munitions. You couldn't have run a war worse than Donald Trump did in every aspect. War is never the answer. Donald Trump is the most incompetent person at every damn thing that he does. He's been a loser his whole damn life, and he's showing what a weak, pathetic loser coward that he is, and especially all those MAGAs who would go after Obama, showing what losers they are. You have Iran's foreign minister spokesperson posting the following. In the Roman mind, Rome was the undisputed center of the world, yet the Iranians shatter that illusion. When Marcus Julius Philip the Arab marched east against Persia, the campaign did not result in Roman victory. It ended in a peace established on Sasanian terms. The emperor had to come to terms. And that's what they're saying, especially as they post these images of Donald Trump bowing down to the Ayatollah right there. I want to talk about this, what Gregory Bruce said. I'll show you this comment. The U.S. did manage, Ben Rhodes goes, nothing was accomplished by Operation Epic Fury except putting the IRGC in charge of Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. Then Gregory Brew responds, the U.S. did manage to kill Iran's leader, historically cautious decision maker with a healthy respect for U.S. military power, and replace him with a collective leadership dominated by military figures who believe most effective means for ensuring Iran's defense is taking the global economy hostage while turning the Persian Gulf into a live fire zone. That's what he had to say. I want to also highlight something else right now, though. We know that Donald Trump surrendered. We know that he capitulated, right? But I want to point this out as well. What other news has broke in the past 24 hours? We know that Donald Trump going through the Department of Justice website, removing all of the references to January 6th insurrectionists, some of the worst people who sprayed bear spray and clubbed and tried to kill cops and police officers, Donald Trump purging their records. Friday night, when people were sleeping, remember Donald Trump, his DOJ filed a motion to dismiss the criminal case against the Oath Keepers who were found guilty of seditious conspiracy. Even though they were found guilty and Trump pardoned them, he wants the whole case dismissed so that they could be fully exonerated as he tries to push the slush fund to them. He wants to build his own army because he's not going to want to leave, and he's paranoid, and he's building his own army of seditious conspiracy terrorists, in my opinion. And then what else is he doing? Just think about how he uses government to inflict pain. This loser who started Epic Fury and then had an epic loss. Here's what he's using government for as well. While taking our taxpayer dollars to engage in war crimes and genocide and bombs and slaughter little girls like the sickos these Epstein-class idiots are, this is what they're doing as well. The Trump administration on Friday narrowed the definition of an assistance animal allowed to live with disabled tenants in housing, a move that could lead to thousands of animals and their owners being evicted. This is what Donald Trump's doing with his Housing and Urban Development Department. The Trump administration on Friday narrowed the definition of an assistance animal allowed to live with disabled tenants in housing, the New York Times reports, a move that could lead to thousands of animals and their owners being evicted. In an internal memo obtained by the New York Times, the Department of Housing and Urban Development told leaders in its Fair Housing Office that effective immediately, the department would exclude emotional support animals and more strictly police the definition of a qualified service animal when granting accommodations for disabled tenants. And then it goes on to say how the memo concluded that while requests to waive pet policies for animals trained to perform specific related disability services are presumptively reasonable, requests to waive pet policies for untrained emotional support animals are not. I want you to think about our veterans who suffer from PTSD, oftentimes people who are very sick, whether it's cancer patients or people suffering from all types of debilitating diseases. Emotional support dogs is how they live and how they survive. People who suffer from serious psychological issues, emotional distress dogs. I remember, I won't get into the details, but I remember a hospital visit where I was with a family member, and one of the most incredible aspects of it is when these emotional service dogs were there and helped this family member through. And I remember the dogs would come in and they would give us the cards of these emotional service dogs. And I collected them all because every visit from the dog brought joy into the room, and I believe played a major part in the healing and the recovery process. And so this is what the Trump regime is going after. This is how they're using government while ripping away our healthcare, while launching catastrophic and unlawful wars. What a pathetic regime. What a pathetic group of losers. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.